Back here on this Saturday morning Sports Medicine Weekly. I'm Steve Kashul, and my co-host this week is Dr. Nik Verma, head team physician for the Chicago White Sox, subbing this week for Dr. Brian Cole. Dr. Nik, we're going to talk a little bit about working out here. Our next guest is really good at this stuff, but I want to ask you, I always ask Dr. Cole as well, a regular workout routine in your life?
Yeah, I'm almost embarrassed to talk about it with Cole on the phone. He's gonna laugh about it. But, unlike Dr. Cole, who basically schedules around his workouts, I'm a guy who just wants to get in, get it done, and get out. And I'd use some cardio conditioning, either a Peloton type bike or a treadmill, and then about 30 minutes of body weight exercises for core fitness, your big muscles in your legs and your core, back and upper body. But my fitness routine is really about staying healthy.
Is that something you do at home or at a workout center or a gym?
I try to do it at home simply because, with the schedule that we keep with the team coverage and the office, things like that, you got to fit it in when you can. In season, I get a lot of my workouts done in the training room, to be honest with you. The game's going on, and it's a good opportunity.
At U.S. Cellular Field?
Yeah, it's a good opportunity to use some great equipment and get the workout done. But otherwise, off season, I'll do it at home.
Are you a Mark Wahlberg guy? I'll wake up at 4 a.m. and start your workouts?
I'm not. I'm generally
That's crazy in my opinion.
A workout, like I'll go home today and do 45 minutes before dinner.
Good. Well, that's cool. All right. I respect guys. I know Dr. Cole likes to do it at 5:30, 6 a.m. I can't do it.
I can't do it.
I love golf. I can't even play golf at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
I just, unless you put me in a foursome with Jack and Tiger and Phil, and then I'll pop up and go.
I love sleep too much.
Yeah, I do too. Exactly. Let's bring on our next guest here. He is Cole Cruz from Coalition Training. He's the owner of Coalition Strength and Training Conditioning, Westtown CrossFit. And Cole, thanks so much for joining us here on Sports Medicine Week. We're going to talk about common injury causes that are holding us back at the gym. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Everything's good. All right, so let's jump right to it. What are some of the causes related to injury that limit our performance when working out?
I think some of the things that you tend to see, especially that I see in the gym, and I'm sure the doctor can back this up a little bit, is just a breakdown in biomechanics and how people move. And part of that is from just daily life, and then part of that is from a lack of preparation, a lack of movement knowledge and understanding of what's going on with their bodies, and then a little bit of lack of strength or a lack of understanding of what's happening with their individual body.
Cole, CrossFit has been part of what I would consider a bigger fitness revolution, which has so many positives in terms of people paying attention to what they're eating and nutrition and staying healthy and trying to stay physically fit, keeping their weight down, all the positive things that we associate with workouts. But I will tell you that along with that, on the medical side, we've certainly seen our fair share of injuries that occur. And I see it primarily when people who have had a very sedentary level of activity suddenly try to aggressively increase their activity and maybe aren't doing it in the best way. So my question for you is, how do you do an initial assessment of an individual to figure out where do they start and how do we start ramping them up safely so that we're not trying to go from 0 to 100?
Yeah, and that's a great point. And that's with athletes or just the general population, there needs to be a build-up period. You need to build the foundation before you go into the bigger, better, and faster movements. So to your point, that's really important. For me, it can be just as simple as like an overhead squat assessment. We'll bring them in just to kind of get a gauge of how their body moves. It's one of the easiest tests to administer as a practitioner, and it also gives quite a bit of information on where to start. It's simply just keeping your arms over your head and trying to squat. And I can't tell you how many breakdowns in mechanics you can see just by that. And then it kind of guides you on the table after that. You can do Thomas tests, Ober tests, just to kind of test out the quads and the IT band. But really with that overhead squat assessment, that is probably the most valuable tool I've come across.
The other thing that I tell patients is to just make sure that they have an open line of communication with whoever they're training with. So as an example, we see patients that have arthritic conditions of the knee and all of a sudden they're doing box jumps and they come in and their knee's big and swollen. And so when you see these patients, do you go over their medical history to kind of get a sense of what's going on with them and then decide what may be safe or appropriate exercises and which may not?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's one of the most important things for us, especially going into CrossFit with so many different types of movements. We really try to focus on hitting them with an on-ramp program where we're teaching them the basics of not only movement, but also bringing them along at the right pace for them. To your point earlier, if they're not prepared, if they don't have that capacity, you can't force heavier weights, faster movement upon them, or else they're just going to break down. those deficiencies will get exposed super quickly. So we're really big on making sure people understand their modifications, people understand what makes sense for them. And it's okay if it's not how it's drawn up on the board. We have to make sure that you move appropriately and efficiently. And then we build up to the point where you can kind of get to those next steps and next stages. It just takes time. And you've got to go at your own pace. There's no right or wrong. It's got to be built upon with a strong foundation.
You're listening to Sports Medicine Weekly here on this Saturday morning. Steve Kashul and Dr. Nik Verma. He's the head team physician for the Chicago White Sox, filling in this week for Dr. Brian Cole. We're visiting with Cole Cruz, the owner of Coalition Strength and Training Conditioning, Westtown CrossFit. Cole, are you more of a cardio or a weight guy? And you know what I mean by that? I mean, do people who work out with you, are you really into the cardio thing, or is it more of the strength aspect?
Obviously, they're both important. I think for when people come to me, it's more of a more strength focus, simply because people are coming from a lack of knowledge, and they put their trust in me to make sure that they're moving effectively, that we are building that foundation that we talked about, that we're addressing some of the weaknesses that they have effectively. And then cardio is usually just easier to do on your own, or it's also easier just to kind of tack on at the end of a session after we've gone through all the strength work.
Can you do this on radio? Dr. Nik, you'll know what I'm talking about. Cole will as well. How to, I go to the gym, right? I work at a facility, and I actually took my boys. We're on a cruise this summer, and about one of the first times my 11-year-old worked out, and my 14-year-old's been lifting weights. I said, guys, forget about what weight you're doing. What I always learned, just do it right? You see these people in the gym, and they're going 1,000,000 miles an hour, and they're pulling, and it just looks like they're straining their bodies. So what can you tell us, Cole? Give us some takeaways for the listeners on how to properly lift weights, if that's even possible here.
You have to understand where you're at with your development. Like Dr. Huck talked about, you can't have someone coming off of never doing anything for 5 years and hop into a class and start doing snatches and thrusters and big movements, even just basic squatting. A lot of people struggle with the mechanics of a basic squat. You really have to learn how to do that effectively first before you can go ahead and build on that. So I think one of the things that I would tell anybody is to work with a trainer at least once, just to get a gauge of what your deficiencies are and what's a struggle for you, and to get a professional opinion on it, because there's no other way for people to really decipher it if you don't have that background.
Well, and Steve, and Cole, I'd be interested on your thoughts on this as well. It's amazing to me, and what I've learned in the last 2 or 3 years is how much aerobic conditioning and strength conditioning you can do just with body weight exercises. Mm-hmm. I mean, simple things like push-ups and planks and core exercises, quad exercises with lunges and dips and those types of things. I mean, there's so much that can be done even in the absence of weight to really give you that solid core foundation that helps to keep you safe. Cole, do you incorporate those types of exercises into workouts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have to. I think you have to be able to understand your body and move your body effectively before you can go adding on any sort of outside stimulus like that. So, yeah, absolutely you have to. For people especially that are coming off of maybe not having the best adherence to an exercise program, like you have to be able to side plank, you have to be able to do a glute bridge, you have to be able to squat effectively, lunge effectively. And if you can't do those things efficiently, then there's things that we need to focus on to get you to a point where you can. And then from there, you start to advance.
I mean, that's part of what we do with injury rehab, right? Is we just start with body weight exercises, normalize motion, restart function, and then begin strengthening from there. So I talk to patients about that all the time, that they don't necessarily need to be doing heavy weights, at least at the beginning, and they can get a lot done just by using their body weight as a tool.
We're out of time, guys. The website is coalitionchicago.com. And Cole, do you take on personal training patients, so to speak, and clients?
Yeah, for sure. Personal training and fascia stretch therapy. So if anyone's looking for somebody, I'm happy to help. Good.
Again, coalitionchicago.com. Cole Cruz. Hey, Cole, thanks so much for joining us here on Sports Medicine Weekly.
Thanks, Cole.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
That's Cole Cruz from Coalition Strength and Training Conditioning, Westtown CrossFit. Back up more Sports Medicine Weekly after these messages on 670 The Score.